There comes a moment in life when the balance quietly shifts. For years, you were the center of their world, the one who guided their steps, soothed their fears, and gave pieces of yourself so they could build their own future. But slowly, almost silently, things begin to change. The voice they once ran to now goes unheard. The advice they once treasured is brushed aside. Sometimes they talk over you, correct you, or make you feel as though your presence is a burden rather than a blessing. And deep inside, it leaves an ache you can't quite name. You might feel frustrated, even angry. A part of you wants to remind them of the countless sacrifices you made, of all the times you put their needs above your own. But demanding their respect rarely brings it back, and often it only pushes it further away. There is another way, a quieter, stronger way. Not through arguments or guilt, but through powerful shifts in how you carry yourself. Simple changes that can gently yet profoundly reshape how they see you and help you reclaim your place as someone they truly respect and value again. Let us see what are these. Shift 1. Stop chasing their approval. As parents grow older, many slip into a quiet habit they don't even notice at first, trying too hard to please their children. It starts with small things, changing your plans so they won't be inconvenienced, saying yes when every part of you wants to say no, keeping your thoughts to yourself just to avoid conflict. You tell yourself you're doing it out of love. But deep down, you're hoping they'll see your effort, appreciate your sacrifices, and treat you with the same care you've always given them. Yet here's the painful truth. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect isn't born from bending over backward. It comes from standing tall. When you constantly place their comfort above your own, you send an unspoken message that your needs are less important, that your voice matters less, that your presence can be taken for granted. And once they start seeing you this way, they stop listening, stop asking, and slowly stop valuing what you give. I once knew a woman named Clara. In her younger years, she was fiercely independent, the kind of person everyone admired for her strength. But as the years passed, Clara began letting her children take over everything. She stopped offering her opinions. She rescheduled her life around their demands. She even stayed quiet when they spoke down to her. "I just want to keep the peace," she told herself. But what she didn't see was that her silence was slowly erasing her presence. Her children no longer turned to her for guidance. They saw her not as the strong woman she had been, but as someone who would always adjust, always agree, always disappear into the background. Clara thought she was holding the family together, but what she was really doing was teaching them that her feelings didn't matter. And they treated her accordingly. If your children have stopped respecting you, the first step isn't to demand it. It's to stop acting like you need it. Start setting boundaries. Even if they resist at first, say no when something doesn't feel right. Speak your truth, even if they don't like hearing it. Because the moment you stop chasing their approval and start showing self-respect, they will begin to see you differently. And slowly, they will remember who you truly are. Not someone desperate for their acceptance, but someone who deserves their respect simply by standing tall. Shift 2. Don't argue. When your children talk over you, dismiss your opinions, or treat you with disregard, your first instinct might be to fight back, to argue, to defend yourself, to remind them of everything you've done and everything you still deserve. But here's the hard truth. Arguing rarely brings back respect. In fact, it often pushes it even further away. Respect is not something you can force into existence with words. It's something you quietly model. Through your presence, your composure, and the way you carry yourself, even when you're being tested. When you meet disrespect with anger, you send an unspoken message that they have power over you, that their behavior can shake your dignity. But when you remain calm and centered, you show them something far stronger, that your worth doesn't depend on their approval and that their behavior cannot diminish your self-respect. I once knew a man named Harold, a retired school principal who had spent decades commanding a classroom with steady authority. Yet at home, with his grown children, he felt invisible. They brushed off his advice, laughed when he corrected them, and sometimes treated his words as background noise. At first, Harold tried to argue his way back into their respect. He raised his voice, repeated his points, and demanded they listen. But the more he fought to be heard, the less they listened. Then, something shifted. Harold stopped chasing their respect with words. He stopped debating and started simply listening. He spoke less, but when he did, his words were calm and measured, never defensive or desperate. He began carrying himself the way he once had in his school days, with quiet strength, not seeking approval, but standing in who he was. Slowly, his children noticed. They started pausing when he spoke. They listened more carefully, even asking for his opinion again. Harold didn't win their respect by arguing for it. He earned it by embodying it. He showed them what self-respect looks like, and they adjusted themselves to match it. If your children don't treat you with respect, don't lower yourself into endless arguments. Lead by example instead. Speak with calm. Listen without fear. Respond with grace. Because respect isn't won with words, it's felt in your presence. And when you hold your ground with quiet dignity, they can't help but feel it. Shift 3. The struggle. You might feel deeply frustrated, even wounded. A part of you wants to sit them down and remind them of everything you've done. The nights you stayed awake worrying when they were sick, the sacrifices you made quietly while smiling on the outside, the dreams you set aside just so they could chase theirs. You want them to see how much of your life has been shaped around their happiness. But here's the painful truth. Trying to force that recognition rarely brings it back. Demanding their respect through raised voices, guilt, or emotional pleas often does the opposite. It makes them pull away, put up walls, or dismiss you even more. Respect cannot be demanded into existence. The more you fight for it, the more it slips through your hands. Shift 4. The promise. But there is another path, a far better one. Not through arguments, guilt, or anger, but through quiet, powerful shifts in how you carry yourself. Subtle changes in your presence, your boundaries, and your sense of self that speak louder than any lecture ever could. When you embody strength instead of pleading for it, something remarkable happens. They start seeing you differently. Today, I'm going to share 6 simple yet profound actions that can gently transform how your children see you and help you reclaim your place as a respected, valued figure in their lives, not because you demanded it, but because you showed them you've always been worthy of it. As parents, it's natural to want to give your time, your energy, your support, your love. For years, giving is how you've expressed care. But when that giving continues without limits or acknowledgement, something subtle yet damaging begins to happen. It stops being seen as kindness and starts being seen as something they're entitled to. Over time, overgiving doesn't build gratitude, it builds expectation. And expectation slowly erodes respect. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. I once knew a man named Leonard, a devoted father who spent decades putting his children first. Whenever they needed help, he was there. If they needed money, he offered it without hesitation. If something went wrong in their lives, he dropped everything to fix it, often sacrificing his own plans, comfort, and even health. At first, his children were thankful, but as the years passed, their gratitude faded. They stopped saying, "Thank you." They stopped noticing his sacrifices. And when Leonard finally needed support from them, just someone to sit with him during a hospital visit, they were suddenly too busy. That was the moment it struck him. His constant giving had stopped being seen as love. It had become invisible. So Leonard made a quiet but powerful decision. He stopped offering help before it was even asked. He stopped rearranging his days to solve their problems. And most importantly, he began saying no when something wasn't right for him. At first, his children were frustrated and confused. They were used to Leonard bending over backward. But as time passed, something changed. They began to see his time and effort as valuable again. They approached him with more care, more consideration. They thanked him, genuinely, when he did help because they now understood it was a choice, not an obligation. This is the truth. When kindness becomes expected, it stops being valued. Your love and generosity are precious, and they should be treated that way. If your children have stopped appreciating all that you do, it may be time to step back. Don't stop loving them. Just make sure your giving is rooted in self-respect, not fear of losing their approval. When they see that your kindness has boundaries, they'll stop taking it for granted and start treating it and you with the respect you deserve. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. One of the most powerful ways to quietly regain your children's respect is to build a life that doesn't revolve around them. For decades, your world may have centered on their needs, their dreams, their happiness, their future. That devotion is beautiful, but as they grow older and build their own lives, that same devotion can begin to backfire. If they sense that your happiness depends entirely on their attention, it can feel like pressure, and pressure pushes people away. People respect those who live fully, who have their own passions, interests, and sense of purpose. When your children see you waiting around for their calls, their visits, or their approval, they may start seeing you as someone who has nothing else going on. But when they see you living with curiosity, energy, and independence, something shifts. They begin to see you not as someone waiting for their time, but as someone worthy of their admiration. I once knew a woman named Marjorie, a retired nurse in her 70s. After her husband passed away, she poured everything into her adult children's lives. She checked in constantly, offered advice they didn't ask for, and quietly hoped they would fill the empty space her partner once occupied. But instead of drawing them closer, it pushed them away. They called less, their visits grew shorter, and Marjorie felt more invisible with each passing month. Then one day she made a decision. She joined a local art class she had always dreamed of taking. She started walking every morning with neighbors, reading novels by the window in the afternoon, and even went on a small weekend trip with friends. Little by little, something incredible happened. Her children began reaching out again. They were curious about her adventures, impressed by her energy, and spoke to her with new warmth. They didn't just see their mother anymore. They saw a woman living a full and meaningful life. That is the shift that changes everything. When your children see you as someone with your own passions and purpose, their respect returns, not out of guilt or duty, but out of genuine admiration. You don't stop being their parent when you focus on your own life. You simply become more of who you are, whole, vibrant, and complete. And when they see that, they will begin treating you as someone who stands tall on their own, because nothing commands respect more than a life that is truly your own. So respect from your children isn't something you can demand. It's something you quietly inspire. It grows not from raised voices or emotional pleas, but from the way you carry yourself, the way you value your own life, and the way you teach them, without words, how you expect to be treated. If they've started showing less care, less warmth, or less consideration, meeting that with anger will only push them further away. But shifting your approach even gently can bring something far more powerful, their renewed respect, offered freely. Stop chasing their approval, because the more you need it, the less they give it. And the moment you stop needing it, they start offering it on their own. Lead by example, because dignity will always speak louder than arguments. Withdraw your emotional dependence and let them see that your happiness is not in their hands, but in your own. Set boundaries, because people, even your children, will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving when your efforts go unappreciated, because your kindness should be treasured, not taken for granted. And most of all, build a life outside of them, a life rich with your own purpose, passions, and joy. When you embrace these shifts, something remarkable happens. They stop seeing you as someone waiting for their attention and start seeing you as someone who commands respect simply by being who you are. They notice your calm strength. They admire your self-respect. They remember that you are not just their parent. You are a whole person, complete and vibrant, who chooses love without sacrificing dignity. So hold your head high. Stand tall in who you are. Because you don't need to demand their respect to receive it. You just need to show them through the way you live that you've always been worthy of it. And when you do, they will offer it back. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love and admiration for the person you've always been.